It's a really cool thing to realize that nothing was ever wrong with you to begin with, right? It's kind of like waking up from a bad dream, from a nightmare, right? You open your eyes and you're like, oh, right? And it's just like, okay, I was wrong. And then you start to realize that you can give yourself everything that you thought you needed other people to give you because you were inherently, well, you learned a belief that you were inherently defective. It's very interesting how just the journey of healing unfolds and how insights kind of just like set in and stuff, and you start to realize things. But just sitting with the reality that there's nothing wrong with you and there never was anything wrong with you, and different beliefs that you grew up with, right? Maybe you were physically or emotionally abandoned. Therefore, your sense of self worth was placed into question and everything. And then you just start to see things differently because you're healing and you realize that whatever it is that you believed about yourself came from someone who was also traumatized. Somebody who just gave you whatever they had, right? Um, it's very interesting how all of this stuff works. And me personally, what I'm doing in my own life now in terms of my journey of healing is just like recognizing how wrong I was. And it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's nothing to be ashamed of, right? It's nothing to be ashamed of at all. It's sh- Shame is actually something that is necessary to sit with. You don't need to add more shame to your plate that's already full of shame. No, shame is just something to sit with, something to allow yourself to feel, right? Because previously you pushed it down, right? And just allowing it to be there, just like the guilt, just like the anger, just like the sadness, all of these different things that we were taught to push down because there was something wrong with feeling them. It's like, no, just allow yourself to feel it, right? So when the realization is arrived to that there was never anything wrong with you, just sit with it. And that's what I'm doing now, right? And again, it's like waking up from a nightmare. It's like waking up from the like, oh, so that was an illusion. Okay, cool. So there is nothing wrong with me. Cool. So I was never worthless. Cool. I was never not worthy. Cool. Um, and something else too that I've been sitting with a lot recently um, is the inner child. Inner child healing is a very cool thing because something that I actually recently learned about the inner child is the inner child is all about dreaming. It's all about following your dreams, right? We have these dreams, right, that we want to pursue when we're younger. We have all these ideas for what we want to do when we're younger. And then we have society beating it out of us, telling us that it's impossible and to, you know, wake the fuck up and, this, that, and the other. And we lose sight of that spark of what's most important to us, right? And then we start to side with reason and logic and everything and this, that, and the other. But there's something so real about that spark, that dream that we have inside of ourselves. Because in a very real way, we were always actually correct about dreaming. Not only that, but the more that I sit with things like, um, you know, quantum physics and everything, and like recognizing that, like, okay, well, reality is going to match your energy and what you are being, right? So, therefore, if that's the case, just feel it and you'll attract it. right? Because feeling is the secret. That's just the reality of it. So, healing the inner child looks like giving yourself what it is that you didn't get growing up, validating yourself, allowing yourself to play, allowing yourself to, create and try. Like we, I'll look at this in the sense of my own life. Um, some things happened and I didn't really get the opportunity to play. I learned perfectionism. I learned that I couldn't make mistakes. I learned that I had to be very serious, right? I learned to take myself very seriously. Um, Again, I'm not going to say what it is that happened because boundaries are important to me. Um, but I learned this frozen, rigid way of living. Wow, those are two very good words to use for this. I learned this very frozen, rigid way of living. Um, and it kind of molded me into a perfectionist, which also caused me to live a life where I was afraid to try, afraid to continue to pursue things. Um, Mainly because I wanted whatever it was that I was trying to do or create to be perfect, and there is no such thing as perfection. So it's an illusion, of course, right? So really just allowing myself to be imperfect and to accept that and to allow that to be part of the way that I create is just so cool, and it's part of the healing journey for the inner child. Um, but yeah, learning that there was never anything wrong with me to begin with, and any ideas that I had for what was wrong with me were all just illusions, was very liberating. And I'm still there. But it's also so wonderful because, like, I look at society, I look at the world and everything, and I'm like, wow, y'all are crazy. Really, like, y'all are crazy. And then I look at things like nature. I look at the trees, I look at the skies, I look at the birds, I look at everything that's just being, and it doesn't give a shit. The trees don't care. Look at them. They're just chilling. The more you give a shit about things that are just unnecessary, the more life just doesn't make any sense.